Welcome back to Beyond the Clinic Walls, the podcast dedicated to helping the healthcare and wellness industry thrive by leveraging technology and innovation. I'm your host, Roby Flynn, and today we're focusing on mastering medical innovation through continuous training and skills development. I'm incredibly excited today to introduce our guest, Tim McDermott, the CEO of Mast, a leading surgical training and bioskills organization serving the medical device and healthcare education sectors. Tim, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Alrighty. Could you start by telling us a little bit about Mast and its crucial role in the surgical training and bioskills education? Also, what initially drew you to this specialized area of medical education and what drives your passion of advancing clinical skills?
Yeah, absolutely. So Mast Labs is, we believe, is the premier bioskills and cadaveric training facility in the Mid-Atlantic. We've got 3 locations. Our original location is in Bethesda, Maryland, in the Massachusetts Ab Surgical Center. We have one in Philadelphia in the Navy Yard. And then our third at the moment is in Richmond in the MOB building on the backside of St. Mary's, a Bon Secours facility. So we believe that, surgical training is obviously incredibly important, becoming increasingly important as you see a ton in the mergers and acquisition space, which I hope we get to talk about a little bit later, as well as AI and the advent of that into all things surgical and healthcare. But we know that we provide fantastic facilities, entities, and provide opportunities for medical device reps to host their surgeons and get the very necessary cadaveric training done. So we see a host of everything from the industry giants that you know and have come to talk about, I'm sure, a lot in your industry, as well as some R&D companies and people that really need to have touch-ups on either sales training, new team member training, board meetings. You see it, investor meetings. We kind of host our space in various ways. We have classrooms in all of our facilities, and we have 2 wet labs. So we do a lot of sessions that are pretty traditional. The trainer comes in, they do a didactic session for a period of time, either introducing a new technique, refreshing kind of what it is that their products do, and then they go into practical application and they do cadaveric training in one of our wet labs. So we see that happen, and then we've seen some variations where it is either a book club of sorts. We've seen that in our Philadelphia market where we get some vascular surgeons together discussing new techniques, new upcoming ideas or things that might be coming to market from a device standpoint, and just using our facility to have that as a host space. So we like to think of ourselves, as very customizable. We love to build things for the client. It's not always as cut and dry because we know that we're cost conscious for budgets for their standpoint, and we want to make sure we can deliver on a great service model. And then to answer the second part of your question, really, I came to kind of get interested in this industry a couple of years ago, seeing the opportunities of growth, especially knowing the founders and their path to get this into many more markets. So, as I mentioned, 3 right now. We're building our global headquarters, which is being in Baltimore. I hope to be open here in the next couple of months. And we have our sights set on several other cities. So I've been spending a good amount of time traveling the first part of this year to a couple of different cities to vet and do our due diligence and say, hey, is this a market that can be supported with our business model? Do we have the echoes from those med device reps in those markets saying, yes, I need cadaveric training facilities in this market. This is a high demand and we really could use your services. So we're vetting that out right now in a couple of cities and trying to see where it makes sense to continue to put pins on the map.
That's great. That's really exciting. The East Coast is probably definitely the best place to start, but then you have the Mayo Clinic outlet.
Absolutely. Yeah,
California,
absolutely.
Texas has great medical facilities too. What do you find are the biggest challenges you observe for physicians and surgical teams when it comes to mastering new techniques and becoming proficient with these advanced devices?
Yeah, I think that the challenge, and unfortunately, it's not something that we can control. We would love to be able to, but oftentimes it's the way that these companies can steer their budgets. And I know that there's certain dollars that are allotted for medical education every year. A lot of those reps that try to get that bulk of that work slotted and booked with us as much as they can. We have some reps that book out the entire year right as the calendar turns January 1, which is great. We put some bookings on the calendar for them, and others manage their budgets. And then as things go throughout the year, as it typically goes, medical education is one of those first ones I know that gets squeezed a little bit. So we wish we could see more in the medical education space. 2025, as an example, was a great upswing from 2024 in terms of frequency, and we saw a couple of clients that we had were trying to push their products to market, so that makes sense. We saw that they had to get a certain amount of labs under their belt to really fine tune things before they were pushing it for either FDA approval or commercializing it and making sure. And then we had some that we could see commercials on game days of sporting events. You'd see their products would be advertised. So that was great to kind of see that. So we know that there's some seasonality with it. There's the life cycle of a technology company that's, either sunsetting a product or they know they might be getting acquired, so they're not going to invest as much. That happens. And again, that's out of our control. We wish we had a little more either insight or say into some of that because we would love to continue to just smooth the curve and to say, "Hey, look, we can book your events out and we can make it again customizable." That's one thing that we love to ensure that the rep knows that it's not always the same standard price. And we'd like to get people in bulk discounts. And I'd love to see, many more companies kind of jump on board with that.
I got you. How do you ensure that the training provided by Mast Labs effectively bridges that critical gap between theoretical knowledge and the practical application in a real world setting?
So yeah, one different differentiator for us, we are not the trainers, right? We're the host facility. We do have surgical techs that work our events, but we're not providing the actual training in the event itself. So what we do in the services we provide are really around, I do use the term customer service because we do everything from event setup, prep, and maintenance to breakdown and turnover. So from that standpoint, we have surgical techs that do work either in surgery centers or they're working in ORs during their day-to-day jobs. They come into our facilities, they know how to set up a arthroscopy tower as an example. They know how to set out general instrumentation and they know how to wash the instruments and turn things over. So they're facilitating the event. They're not the ones doing the actual training. They are there. They're never really going to be a first assist, to use some terminology that the scrub techs would be familiar with, but they have all the general knowledge of what's going on. So if we're doing a hip and knee lab, if we're doing a spine lab, we're doing like that, they have experience in knowing kind of the flow of the event and what that's going to do. It's more for the surgeons to educate either the fellows group that might be in there, because we have a lot of those programs that come in, or it could be, a device rep that's saying, "Hey, look, we know there's an iteration to this device. Let's show you how this new one works." Or it could be the recruitment of a new doctor that might have worked with Stryker as an example, and then could be recruited by J&J. And they come in and say, "Hey, look, we know you've used this device in the past. Very similar. Let's try this technique. Let me show you how it works." It happens a lot. We see that from that standpoint that, or people want to come in and they want to shoot training videos. We've had that as well. We've brought in production companies. They've set up their equipment and they bring in their doctor to use that device and make sure that they can record the new techniques. It might be used in one of those national sales meetings. It could be internal marketing and media that they have, or it could be something they're commercializing and putting out for greater visibility. So we see that, but our teams are really good and strong in setting up, maintaining the event, being kind of right there when things are needed, but they make sure that everything runs very smoothly and handles any questions and concerns that might come up.
Are you noticing any specific trends that you're seeing with these medical professionals, how they prefer to learn and acquire their new skills today? Are they looking more modular, on demand, perhaps technology-driven training solutions?
Yeah, that's a great question. We've seen, and obviously we're not the only ones that exist in this space, but there are people that do have those mobile units that might be able to go to, the doctors, the surgery center's parking lot and set up and do their education and their training there. There's an appetite for a lot of it right now. And there's, I was just at AAOS in New Orleans a couple weeks ago, and the virtual aspect of this which brings a little bit of that AI component into play is, the ocular devices that these people can put on. And so you can go to a doctor's office, put it on, and have them actually simulate the surgery and then get the feel for that. Now, it doesn't replace the tactile feel of doing cadaveric training in a facility like ours, but it does provide a kind of an initial onset. Hey, this is a new device. Let's see how it works for you. And I talked to a couple of companies that were there and displaying their technology. So we know that that's kind of a push there. I don't think it's a mass wave at the moment. I could see it finding its place in our world and more people kind of adopting that. The AI component is really interesting to see how that's going to come into play. Again, I don't know if you'll ever replace the hands-on cadaveric training. I just don't think that goes away. It's too important, especially for these groups of fellows programs that we have that come through. And I'm sure as much as everybody else would love to know that their doctor that's doing their shoulder surgery on them has actually practiced this technique before actually stepping into a real life surgery. So we like to think that we've helped train or helped be a part of those training sessions that have gotten those surgeons ready for the real world, and getting those surgeries into play and practice. So there's a lot of interesting movements going on, but I think from modular units, I met with the folks at STI. They have a massive fleet of mobile labs that they move around the country, and they do a great job, hosting their services. And then there's people like us. We have, people out that are competitors of ours that are in other cities that do a really good job, and then there's some people on much larger scales than us that do a really good job. So I mean, there's room for everybody, and it's exciting to see, how we have kind of built our business growth strategy, and we know that we're going and attacking it the right way because we believe, there's just still a tremendous amount of opportunity in these markets that are underserved.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there's ever a time where hands-on true application will ever be replaced by
Yeah,
technology. I mean, it's great for a lot of things, getting your feet wet, kind of understanding what you're doing, but when it comes down to it, everyone's different. Every situation is different. And when
mhm,
you're operating on someone too, you have that pressure on you as well. And you just never know
absolutely.
what's going to happen. You can simulate every single scenario, but there's always something that hasn't happened before.
Right.
Everything's different. Yeah.
Exactly.
What role does continuous education and bioskills training play in private practices and hospitals' ability to attract top talent and retain skilled physicians and staff? Do you see as there a key factor in recruitment and professional development?
Yeah, I mentioned that, we do a lot in the fellows courses. So and in multiple markets in our Bethesda and Philly, we're pretty heavy with those in particular. You see the cyclical booking of those programs and the need to get those surgeons through those rotations and have them come through and understand what it is. And again, it's not a one for one, like for like operating room or even a surgery center, but we provide all the other components that really come together with that, right? So we don't have to worry about the issues of sterility. So it's not a true, there's not a sterile field where you have to be aware of that. It's really a teaching component where, the proctor can come in, stand at the table, show the techniques, and then it's a rotation of like, all right, get in here, hold the device. This is what I'm talking about. Here, again, if you're doing something in the shoulder space, it's making sure you have the light source angled at the right part, and then making sure that you've got whatever device it is that you might be using, working on suture anchors as an example, and making sure that you've got the right touch and feel on that to make sure that the technique is perfected. So it gives them that repetition, and that I think is invaluable. Really, it's something that we see afterwards. We like to make sure that the people that come through have open and honest conversations with us too, because we're always looking to improve. But more importantly, we're inquisitive. Hey, what did you like about it? What did you not like about it? How can we improve on the setup, the maintenance, the running of any of these events? And we take that feedback seriously, and we make sure that we try to iterate for the next time to, if there's an aspect of what we provide that can be improved upon, if it's equipment, if it's lighting, if it's, anything, if it's the quality of the tissue, something of that we can affect, we'll take to heart and make sure that we can provide the best possible service. So we know that we're always iterating and making changes to ensure that we're providing the best possible service because we want to make sure that our brand stands for high quality service. That's one thing that I talk to our team about on a daily basis. We're always pushing for high quality standards, and we don't accept anything less than that. So we're open ears and open eyes on things like that, and we think that rings true. We have a lot of repeat business as a result of it. People come to know what our brand stands for, and it's exciting to see. After this many years, Bethesda being open since 2018, seeing people come back for that many years has been really a testament to what we've built and continue to deliver.
Piggybacking off of that, how is Mass Labs leveraging technology such as AI, virtual reality, what have you, to innovate training methodologies, making the scenario more real life, and effective and accessible to beyond traditional classroom walls?
Yeah, so again, nothing replaces the true cadaveric training that we can provide, right? So whether that's a full cadaver or if that's a pieces of it, but depending on the discipline that you're working on and the surgical types that are devices that might be put into place. So we see everything from orthopedics to spine to ENT. We've been seeing upswing in dental labs. We've done a lot in the sleep apnea space, and there's of course an increasing need for technology in the sense that people want to record these sessions. People want to walk out of there and say, "Hey, look, what is it that we did?" In the first hour and, from first cut. And when we inserted that implant, what did that look like? So just recently, we've struck up a partnership with a company called 15 Blades, started from several podiatrists that are located in Southern Maryland, and they're seeing the need, as in their cases, to record and have videography equipment at the ready. So we've partnered with them for a couple of upcoming labs, and one in Philadelphia, one in Bethesda, at the client's request, and saying, "Hey, like I would love to have the ability to record this entire session, make sure that we can bring this back to our sales team or our R&D team, really break down what it is that we did, and then kind of, like I use too many sports analogies, but it's film session, and it's going back and saying what worked, what didn't work. well, we didn't have all the parts there at the time, or this broke, and why did it break? Well, we had the wrong technique that was used. Whatever the benefits that they're getting out of it, we want to be able to aid and assist in bringing that to their recruitment process and the iteration of the device of getting better and stronger. And that's for us is a win. So we like to see partnerships come to fruition. And this has been something that I've been talking to the founders of 15 Blades and just saying, well, how do we think that this can work? What's the partnership here? And what's best for everybody? So we're excited to see what they can deliver. I know that they're going to bring a great amount of expertise. Again, they're podiatrists by training, so they already know what they need and how they can get it done. So this is going to be interesting to see, the client's response to that. For us, it's just providing another amenity that we know has been requested and just excited to see the results of that.
I'm looking ahead in how medical training will be evolving. Do you see more personalized training pathways? Do you see a lot of AI-driven feedback happening? And do you see places like yours staying solid where they are, or do you see more of the remote clinics like you were talking about who show up to these surgical centers become more of the trend?
Very interesting. I don't know if anybody has that specific answer. I think there is probably going to be some form of AI component from a remote standpoint, whether it's a hybrid of those mobile labs that show up where you need to grab a surgeon and they can't, and they're just geographically, it's just not possible to fly them into whatever city that you're in. So you have to remote them in. So how do you do that with a virtual training aspect of it? I definitely can see that. I know that there's been companies in the past. We've partnered with some that I think worked well in concept, but it just wasn't mass adopted, and just it was worth trying because we knew that there was an appetite there. And some of those you'll see they'll come to these trade shows as well and industry shows that they're the next wave of, we know that this is what people are asking for. And from our standpoint, we want to be able to be a part of that conversation. If we can adapt that technology and provide that, whether that is virtual training, I think that is one thing that is on the top of mind for myself in future growth is how do we continue to stay relevant. If more people are adapting, I need to grab a surgeon from the West Coast and who's needs to be involved in this lab on the East Coast and just can't make it work from a timing standpoint. It's too time crunched. How do we bring that component to life? And is that strictly a screen share? Is that some type of technology, mashup of what we're using today versus what hasn't been built yet? And for us, I'm having conversations with one particular surgeon who's working on something of a flavor of that. I'm not at liberty to really talk about it. He hasn't launched it yet. So, but that is something exciting where if we want to be the test source for that and they want to say, hey, look, I like the facility that you have. It provides what the end game is for us, which is knowing what a test facility can handle. And then we want to bring together this AI component in the surgical space. How do we make that happen? So I love having those conversations. I'm having a few of them, which is great. So I do see that the technology is going to evolve. How the hosting of these events, it might not always be in person, is going to evolve. We've done a few. I know I've only been here 2 years. We've had two labs in particular where we've had remote people kind of participate, just really from like if you were doing remote learning in any kind of aspect. And we've had the videography equipment to help set that up and get them virtually into the room to hear the conversations, provide their input, be involved. But when it comes to surgery, I think that that's kind of the next iteration of the to be determined technology. What does that look like? I don't know. I'm excited to see it, and if we can have it in our facilities, fantastic. We would love to have it.
I think it's mind-boggling. I had seen somewhat recently, there's doctors in other countries or even regions of the world who are operating remotely on people because they're that
Mhm.
skilled at it and they can do it from truly wherever they please. I mean, it'd be pretty wild to be on vacation and be like, you know what, I might just do an operation today and go back to out on the
Right.
beach.
And it all ties to the robotics and the sophistication that these robots are providing as well. So that's really cool to see. I don't know if that correlates to us adopting and bringing in all of these different types of robots to test and trial them. Maybe that would be really fun to partner with some of these companies because I know how many of these kind of dominate the market now, and you hear about them in a lot of the readings, the medical journals, some of the social media postings you see around that the adaptation of a lot of these newer devices are really exciting. I mean, it's improving surgery, which is fantastic, but more importantly, to your point, you see surgeons that are jumping in from other countries that are able to perform these remote surgeries. That's amazing, and that's unbelievable to see.
It'd be nice if it could level the playing field for healthcare. We're so advanced here, and then someone in Africa does not have even remotely any access to this.
Absolutely.
So going forward, what's your vision for an organization like yours will continue to support the medical device industry and healthcare providers in bringing cutting-edge treatments to patient safety and effective and to patient safety and effectively?
Yeah, we always think of ourselves as obviously we provide a great service to the medical device industry and then those surgeons at large that are the clients of those surgical device companies. We know that we're going to exist. Our pattern, our growth strategy, and our passion is going to be establishing our brand throughout the rest of the country. So that flag that we have in the ground right now in the Mid-Atlantic, Baltimore will be our headquarters. We do want to look outside of the Mid-Atlantic and see where there are opportunities. I know I had stated this earlier. We are in growth mode and we are looking for where the next device rep is going to say, you know, where I have a big pocket and a big need is this part of the country, whether that's the Northeast, the Southeast, the Midwest, or the West Coast. We're open to all of those conversations. We want to make sure that our model fits. It doesn't make sense if somebody just says, yes, go there. And then if for us, we don't do our due diligence, shame on us. We want to make sure that it's the right fit for us. And that can be in various capacities. That's us putting another brick and mortar facility in place, or maybe bridging some new type of unique partnership. Really, my path and my charge when I came on board was to grow the business, and that's still first and foremost what I wake up every day looking to do for Mast Labs. Not only strengthen our integrity and making sure our brand stands for something that people come to know in the industry, what our brand is, who we are, and what we do. We still have a tremendous amount of work to do, and I'm impassioned by that opportunity to climb that mountain and make sure people know when they hear Mast Labs, oh yeah, I know exactly who that is. It's happening, but it takes a while. So that's one of the pieces and components that I know that I'm diligently working on. But that growth and getting into the different markets where we're not yet is where I see ourselves continuing to go, 3 to 5, 10 years from now, and that's exciting for me. I have a lot of passion about making sure people know the value that we can provide to their organizations. And here we are here to partner with them. We provide a necessary service for them to be very successful in their fields. And we know that we can do it in any form and capacity that they need. So that's something that I want to make sure that our key clients can always hear is that it's not just this cookie cutter. I know exactly what it is from a cost standpoint, from a layout standpoint. We are constantly pushing the envelope for us to say, how can we continue to make this customizable and very successful for people to come in and do things on any type of scale.
Perfect. What's one piece of advice you could offer to these private practice leaders, surgeons, so that they can stay at the forefront of clinical excellence and provide the most proficient and latest surgical and procedural care?
I think it's interesting because I've had a conversation just in the last 30 days or so with two very different types of surgeons. One who's on the end of the back half of their career, and one who's really kind of just started to get out of and build their own practice. And there were two really different conversations. I would not call them a retiree yet, but marching towards the retiree state of their career. They're like, look, that's a young person's game. I get it. I needed to do it. It was absolutely critical for me to gain that skill, and more importantly, listen to mentors and leaders that I was learning from at the time, whether they were in a private practice or not, to say like, how is it that you're doing? What's your technique? How do you continue to build upon this? And that's what every hopefully good surgeon is doing. And now the younger surgeon was saying, look, I need to book as many as I possibly can. I can't do enough. I want to make sure that I can fine tune my technique, that I can become the expert, because that's great. You're pushing the envelope and making sure that you can become the leading surgeon in that discipline. That's fantastic. And for us, we want to be there to help support it. So whether that's either, if you're at the twilight of your career and you're just more into research and writing papers and having conversations and vetting concepts and ideas with fellow colleagues, great. You can come and do that at our facility. You don't actually have to be doing a cadaveric session. You can come in and have your white paper session, the coffee talks as they call them, book clubs as they also call them, whatever you want to do and come in and have a great cross-functional conversation, come and do it. And then the other ones that want to just say, look, I need to book as many labs as possible. I need to work on as many pieces of insert, where that is that their surgical discipline lies, that we need that as well. And we're happy to host that as well. So we're always open to these conversations and saying, like, what is it that you need? How can we support you? Think of us too as as a very open, broad brush kind of solution solver for you. We can do things all within our capacity, but we know that it's not just as always as cut and dry. Well, that's just the CAD lab. We don't need to go to the CAD lab this time. We can do this. Like, no, you can come to us and we can figure out how we can make this work for you. So we've had some sales, training sessions in there that had nothing to do. They didn't order any cadavers. It's just really kind of coming in and using the space because we're less expensive than a hotel ballroom, right? And that would be something that's a benefit to somebody that's got to pull their regional sales team into, that they can say, look, we can touch down in this city, come here, spend less money, make it work, and be off to the races and be very successful. We love that. We can do that as much as people want to do that. So I think that we see all things in between. And I think that's one of the stereotypes that I've been working to break, is that it's just, hey, Mast Labs, we started in orthopedics. We're not strictly an orthopedic shop. We do a tremendous amount of work with those companies that are in the orthopedic space. But like I said, we're doing a lot in ENT and vascular, urology, and spine. Love seeing this uptick in med spa and dental that have come through. It's really been fascinating to see. We do a lot in small extremities as well. So it's been fun to see that uptick in business and interest. And you see the light bulbs go off when we start giving tours and show people around and saying, oh my gosh, yes, we can do this, we can do this. So their wheels get turning. And those are the best conversations that I like to have, and touring and talking through what it is that's going to help them make their business successful. I love that. I take passion and pride in that, and helping them become successful.
Yeah, that's great. I love the healthcare industry because it's just constantly innovating. It's constantly affected by
Yeah,
technology. They pretty much go hand in hand. So every single day there's something new dropping in each category, each industry.
absolutely. Yeah. It's ever evolving, it's great. The joke used to be that, healthcare is recession proof, and, to some degree, yes. And, we don't need to go down that rabbit hole, but
Right.
there is, from the surgical side, it's constantly evolving. And I love the fact that these companies, and you see these acquisitions happening, and their ideas of how can we leverage, bringing this new company on board and making our suite of services that much more attractive to the healthcare industry, whether that's recruiting new doctors to use their devices or their robots, or just being able to provide that general service. And that's really, really interesting to see. And it's for the betterment of surgical training and patient outcomes. I mean, it should always drive to better patient outcomes, right? Better minimal invasive surgery. You get patients up and moving around, and having better success and healthier people as a result of it. We know we're a byproduct, and we play a very, very, very small role. But as another thing that we talk about and take pride in is the fact that if we've seen some upstart companies come through our doors trying to make tweaks to something that has existed, a product that's already existed, but they've found a new way to say, like, we believe this is going to be the next wave and the next touch on this that makes it more successful. And we've been a great partner to help them get it done, train, test, get it out the door. And we eventually hear about them a year or two later. Yes, they've launched their product, it's successful, and hey, it might have gotten acquired by one of the bigger companies, but that's kind of the name of the game in the med tech industry. That's, at least for some of these smaller startups, they definitely look to get the acquisition done. But they have built a great product, and they've used our facilities to get all of that testing and flushed out all of what they believe was going to take to get them to the most attractive place to get to that sales table.
That's great. Well, this has been an awesome conversation. I learned a lot today. Even being in the
Yeah.
healthcare industry and in the more procedural surgical side, still great. For our listeners who want to learn more about Mast Labs or connect with you, where's the best place to do so?
Yeah, you can go to our website, mastsurgical.com. We have social media handles. We're on X, we're on Instagram at Mast Surgical. And you can follow us, on LinkedIn as well. We have a presence. Mast Surgical has got their own page as well, Mast Surgical Training, Mast Surgical Training. And we have, consistent posts and blasts out there to make sure we're gaining new audiences and getting the bookings that we know that are necessary to make those reps successful as well. So if there's questions or needs, you can go to contact@mastsurgical.com. Reach out to us. You have any general questions, you don't think it's the right space for you, let's talk through it. We're willing to have those conversations and ensure that we can build a program for you, or at least get your thoughts on the right path that might get you to the question getting answered. So we're happy to talk through that and get everybody exactly what they need. I wish I had the date. I don't officially have the date. We're working through final construction permitting at the moment. It's getting close. I will say within the next couple of months for sure, we will be open. And when I do have that date, I will be posting that on our social media accounts. A ribbon cutting, go live ceremony we're going to really push the visibility to that facility. Really, really excited about that site because it is going to be our headquarters, and we'll have the ability to host Hopkins down the street. Maryland's going to be very close. Mercy, the MedStar hospital facilities. So, Maryland has a really fantastic healthcare footprint, and we know that there's a need. There was a lab that was in the city at this point about 7 years ago that closed down. So I know that there's a lot of med device reps that are going to be very anxious to see when we can open so they can bring their events to us. And we're industry agnostic, so we're not, making partnerships with any one of those major hospital facilities. We want to see everybody coming through and using our site. So when I do have that date, I definitely will try to echo that out as quickly as possible and as loud as possible so that people know where we are and when they can start booking with us.
Absolutely. Baltimore's the perfect city to have this as your headquarters too. Hopkins,
Yeah.
obviously amazing. University of Maryland's right there. Their shock trauma facility. I've worked in both of those places, so I've seen it
Oh,
first.
okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, definitely let me know the day, and I'll make sure I'm there. Okay.
cool. Yeah, sounds good.
All right. Well, thank you again, Tim, and to our listeners. I hope this episode has been nothing but educational, and thanks for tuning in on Beyond the Clinic Walls.
Thank you.